After making it back to the cabin, I slammed and locked the back door as I went inside. I hurriedly checked every window in place to be sure they were locked as well. Every blind was pulled closed, every light turned on. All I could think to do was sit in front of the TV for about an hour until I calmed down. Eventually I called my girlfriend while I cooked dinner, and she could immediately tell something was up with me. With enough of her prying, I eventually gave in and told her what had happened in the woods. I told her I knew it was crazy and I probably just hallucinated it. I was extremely tired after all. The night before I hit the road and I had trouble sleeping. I was just so excited to get here. But in the back of my mind, no matter what I said to her, I knew it was not just some crazy vision. I was so sure that something was out there with me. She suggested it was likely coyotes or something, normally not an aggressive creature, but would certainly try to run something off if it got too close to their den. I knew deep down that it was not coyotes, but her logic assured me enough to calm me down and dismiss it, for the most part. Looking back, I wish I had followed my gut on the matter and left, but that simply isn't what happened. Anyway, the rest of the evening was spent surfing the internet and looking through my father's old pictures. I stared at every image, making note of his face, trying to imagine how he sounded when he talked. I found myself imagining what these pictures would look like if Mom and I had been a part of his life. It wasn't glamorous, his life, but he certainly had some wealthy friends. Living in LA all that time earned him some rich and famous contacts. It was kind of fun at first, picturing myself at these events and gatherings, but it quickly went sour. The resentment of a life ignored fully washed over me. Why didn't he want me? Why couldn't he imagine at least some good would come from starting a family, even if it wasn't his plan? "Well, I have your money in your vacation house now, you bastard," I said aloud as I slammed his picture album closed. It was at this point I decided that I should try to get some sleep. The day had been long and I had a whole new world to explore in the morning. I decided I would go into town and get a few things, then spend the day checking out Dad's property. The bedroom was the only place in the cabin with a separate door. Otherwise, it was just all one massive room. Thankfully, the bathroom, which was in the bedroom, at least had a sliding glass door to separate it. It was helpful in ensuring my sleeping area didn't reek of shit for an hour every time I used it. Around midnight, I finally crawled into bed and went to sleep. As I drifted off, it felt like I was going to have the best sleep I've had in years. After what felt like no time at all, I sat up wide awake around 3:30 in the morning. My throat was dry and I realized my bed was soaked with sweat. After turning the fan on, I went into the kitchen to get a glass of water. As I stood at the sink sipping my drink, every hair on my body stood on end. I heard laughter. It sounded like laughter anyway. At first it was as if there was a few people laughing, but suddenly there were a few other people crying. Loud, incredibly pained sobbing, intermixed with chorus of hysterical glee. I realized it was coming from just beyond the window in front of me. The kitchen window was stationed over the sink and faced the backyard. I began to tremble again as I reached out for the curtain. As my hand got closer, I began hearing what sounded like footsteps accompanied by snapping twigs. The footsteps, the crying, and the laughter all got louder, until I flung open the curtain. The sound stopped as I did so. In fact, everything stopped. It was absolutely silent. No tree frogs, no crickets, no owls. Nothing. But there they were. People were standing in the yard just on the edge of the tree line. They were shrouded in the darkness of the night, and I couldn't begin to speculate on how many there were. Their shadows and the utter blackness of the woods all blended together, shrouding them from me getting a good look at them. One man was in a suit and tie. Another wore flannel and jeans. There was a woman wearing a red summer dress, and I'm pretty sure I saw a little boy wearing overalls with his t-shirt underneath. There were only two things that were similar about any of them. The first was, regardless of their attire, they were all covered in dirt and moss. The second was that I couldn't see any of their faces. The shadows hid them perfectly. I felt a chill that ran through all of my bones. They were just standing there, all staring at the window, staring at me. After a minute that seemed like eternity, I realized that I was just standing there in shock. Finally, I went straight for my phone and dialed 911. The operator picked up and asked what my emergency was. There are a few people here. They're coming from the woods. Just standing in my... My words were cut off as I went back to the window. There was nothing. Just trees and moonlight. Suddenly, I could hear the sounds of nature again. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. Sir? Sir, are you still there? The operator jarred me back to reality. Yeah, I'm still here. Sir, do you have an emergency? You said there was people in your yard? Look, I'm sorry. It was just some neighbor, kids playing a prank or something. But I think they ran off. Sorry to bother you. I was just a little freaked out by it is all. Thank you, and sorry again. She began to say something else when I hung up. For the life of me, I don't know why I didn't leave then. I don't know why I was so fast to dismiss all of this as something more harmless than it was. But the same feeling that brought me to that cabin is what kept me here. It was like a knife scraping at the back of my skull, something ever present but impossible to control or even notice half the time. As I put my phone back on the charger, I turned to head back into the bedroom. But in my peripheral, I noticed something was off. Craning my head to see, I immediately felt weak in the knees as fear shot up my spine yet again. The front door was open. And there was something on the porch.